It was funny because I feel like you captured the spirit of the whole record with that song, with the one in the sense of just the way it opens. I'm doing good, I'm on some new shit, and saying yes instead of no. And I was like, is she talking about writing songs with me and everything else at the same time, or something?
I think it has I think it has a double meaning. The opening the album with the words "I'm doing good, I'm on some new shit," and saying yes instead of no. It applies to the situation that the song is written about, where you're updating a former lover on what your life is like now and trying to be positive about it. But it was also where I am creatively, where it's like, I'm just saying yes, I'm just putting out an album in the worst time you could put one out. I'm just making stuff with someone who I've always wanted to make stuff with as long as I've been a fan of the National, and I'm just gonna say yes to stuff.
Yeah.
And it worked out. When you sent me the track for Last Great American Dynasty, I had been wanting to write a song about Rebecca Harkness since 2013, probably. And I'd never figured out the right way to do it because there was never a track that felt like it could kind of hold an entire story of somebody's life and whatever, and move between generations or whatever. Then when I heard that, I was like, oh my God, I think this is my opening. I think this is my moment. I think I can write the Rebecca Harkness story.
That song is such a folklore moment to me because it's not about you, but it is all about you.
Well,
And
it's that
like,
country music kind of narrative device where in country music it's like, this guy did this, then this woman did this, then they met, and their kid was me.
Totally,
like,
And I was that man that I've been talking
kid.
about.
Which is the best. It's like you listen to country songs and you're just like shivers everywhere, my whole body.
Like, even though it's not till the very end when you spin it around, and even though the story is about someone else, I think it's the most revealing thing. I think it's so deeply personal. And it really hits you in the gut when you hear that at the end.
Thanks.
It's real good.
Man. I only wish our other two co-writers were here. Justin Vernon and William Bowery.
Justin is one of the greatest ever. William, I never got to meet.
There's been a lot of discussion about William Bowery and his identity, because it's not a real person.
It's not?
Jack.
I'm doing a bit.
The bit, that would have gone on forever.
What?
Who?
When?
So, William Bowery is Joe, as we know. And Joe plays piano beautifully, and he's always just playing and making things up and kind of creating things. And Exile was crazy because Joe had written that entire piano part, that dun 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 dun, and it was singing the Bon Iver part, the I can see you standing, honey, with his arms around your body, laughing, but the joke's not funny at all. And
lyrics too?
Yeah, he was just singing it the way that the whole first verse is.
Wow.
And so I was entranced and asked if we could keep writing that one. And it was pretty obvious that it should be a duet because he's got such a low voice and it sounded really good sung down there and in that register. And then we're really, really, really big Bon Iver fans, and
so cool.
We know that Aaron knows him, but I was too afraid to suggest it. But I just, when I sent it to Aaron, I was like, this is hopefully a duet. I don't know who with, who would it be with? Who do you think would be good with this? And Aaron was like, I think Justin would love this.
And you're like, really? Okay, that could be interesting.
I couldn't say it. I couldn't say it.
Is that really what happened?
No, I couldn't say it with words, because if I would have said it and he would have gone to Justin and Justin would have said no, it would have hurt too much.
Interesting.
And when we talked about it, I was like, I think he's gonna be really inspired by this. And then we sent it to him, and he was. And then the process of working on it and what he sent back. And he wrote, like, you didn't ask him to write anything, but he wrote this, like...
He wrote this amazing bridge. He wrote, so step right out, there is no amount, and like that whole bit. I kept thinking this isn't really going to happen. Like, Justin is going to change his mind about this because this isn't a part of my reality. There's no way that this is going to happen. He's gonna record the vocals and then decide he doesn't want to be on the record, and then that just never happened. Like, he just is on the album and he's just the coolest, and that's what's happening.
Where do we start? I mean, to me, the whole thing starts with My Tears Ricochet.
Yeah, chronologically, that's the first thing. I wrote that one alone, and it's definitely, I think, one of the saddest songs on the album.
Yeah, I think it's one of the best songs you've written.
Oh, thanks.
Which is, I think, why you crowned it as a track 5.
Yeah, picking a track 5 is sort of a pressurized decision, but I knew from day one this was probably going to be it. It's kind of a song about karma.
Yeah.
It's a song about greed. It's a song about how somebody could be your best friend and your companion and your most trusted person in your life, and then they could go and become your worst enemy who knows how to hurt you because they were once your most trusted person.
It's the worst betrayal.
Yeah. It does remind me of people going through a divorce and having that person that they swore to be with forever then become the person that they spend most of their time talking shit about.
Yeah, and it is that ultimate betrayal when someone, messed you up from the inside.
Mm-hmm. Writing this song, it kind of occurred to me that in all of the superhero stories, the hero's greatest nemesis is the villain that used to be his best friend.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. When you think about that, you think about how there's this beautiful moment in the beginning of a friendship where these people have no idea that one day they'll hate each other and try to really take each other out. I mean, that's really sad and terrible.
But that's the bird's eye view quality of the song that I think is so unique, because they're both great, but sometimes you write like very in the moment.
Yeah.
And you're like, this happened and this is how I feel, and I love that. But this song, which is interesting that it's the first one that happened because I think it became a huge theme on the album, is it's very pulled back. Mm-hmm. It's very pulled back and commenting on the whole experience of it. It's very powerful to me.
In folklore, there are a lot of songs that reference each other or lyrical parallels, and one of the ones that I like is the entire song, This Is Me Trying, then being referenced again in Mirror Ball, which is, I've never been a natural, all I do is try.
Yeah, I remember that being an interesting one for you to actually put down. I remember you said it and you did it, and then you were like, should I say that?
I was like, is that too true? Is that? And I think with Mirror Ball, sometimes when I'm writing to an instrumental track, I'll push play and I'll immediately see a scene set. And this was one of those cases where I just saw, lonely disco ball, twinkly lights, neon signs, people drinking beer by the bar, a couple of stragglers on the dance floor, just sort of a sad, moonlit, lonely experience in the middle of a town that you've never been. And I just was thinking, okay, so we have mirror balls in the middle of a dance floor because they reflect light, they are broken a million times, and that's what makes them so shiny. We have people like that in society too. They hang there, and every time they break, it entertains us.
Yeah.
And when you shine a light on them, it's this glittering, fantastic thing. But then, a lot of the time, when the spotlight isn't on them, they're just still there, up on a pedestal, but nobody's watching them.
Well, it's a myth we love, and then we create it for people.
Yeah, it's the whole
do the broken thing, make it fun. Now make it sad.
Yeah,
now make it cool. Now make it sad.
Yeah, but when the light's off, be okay.
Yeah.
It was a metaphor for celebrity, but it's also a metaphor for so many people who have to feel like everybody feels like they have to be on for certain people. You have to be different versions of yourself for different people, different versions at work, different versions around friends, different versions of yourself around different friends, different version of yourself around family, around, everybody has to be duplicitous, or feels that they have to, in some ways, be duplicitous. And that's part of the human experience, but it's also exhausting. And you kind of learn that every one of us has the ability to become a shapeshifter.
Totally.
But what does that do to us? And it also is the first time, and one of the only times that the time that we're living through was actually lyrically addressed. I think that, the pandemic and lockdown and all that runs through this album like a thread, because it's an album that allows you to feel your feelings, and it's a product of isolation. And it's a product of all this, rumination on what we are as humans, blah, blah, blah. But this is the first time in the bridge saying they called off the circus, burned the disco down when they sent home the horses and the rodeo clowns. I wrote this song right after I found out all my shows were canceled. And it's like I'm still on that tightrope. I'm still trying everything to get you laughing at me. So it's like I realized here I am writing all this music, still trying, and I know I have an excuse to sit back and not do something, but I'm not, and I can't, and I don't know why that is.
But that's what makes it, to me, a great piece of pandemic time work, is that it's not about the pandemic, it's about the experience of what happens to an artist when you're living through a pandemic.
Yeah, you start there, you start
to dream.
Yep. With 7, the song, I was looking back on it, I've always wondered when I see a kid throwing a massive tantrum in a grocery store, like part of me is like, man, I feel you. Like, when did I stop doing that when I was upset? Like, when did I stop being so outraged that I would throw myself on the floor and throw the cereal at my mom?
Well, it also doesn't stop, but where does it go?
Yeah.
Like that feeling, like we're still having that feeling, but
yeah, so the idea is, you know, please picture me before I learned civility. Like I used to scream anytime I wanted. Obviously, you know, we can't be throwing tantrums all the time, and we learn that that's not the right thing to do, but there's something lost there too.
It's a weird experience to work with you. And now Aaron can understand it. No, I'm serious, because it's like, here's the song. Oh, wait, here's the bridge. Oh, wait, here's a better bridge. Okay, now I have the perfect bridge. And then here's the thing after the bridge. This thing's gonna come in.
Okay, remember when I pulled up and
so like,
in the car? I wrote that in the vocal booth.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there's series of
some plans just in case you call.
and so like, but hearing the patchwork of like that whole thing coming together, I was just like, I just love what you did on that song. It takes me away.
I love what you did on that song. And I've been kind of in my head like calling the girl from August either Augusta or
nice.
Augustine. I've just been like naming her that in my head.
Oh, that changes things for me, because she's written nameless to me, but now it's forever changed.
What happened in my head was, okay, so like Cardigan is Betty's perspective from like 20 to 30 years later, looking back on this love that was this tumultuous thing. In my head, I think Betty and James ended up together, right?
Interesting.
So in my head, she ends up with him, but he really put her through it. But like August was obviously about the girl that James had this summer with, right? So she seems like she's a bad girl, but really she's not a bad girl. She's like really a sensitive person who like really fell for him, and she was trying to seem cool and seem like she didn't care because that's what girls have to do. And she was trying to let him think that she didn't care, but she really did, and she thought they had something very real. And then he goes back to Betty. So the idea that there's some bad villain girl in any type of situation who like takes your man is actually a total myth, because that's not usually the case at all. Like everybody has feelings and wants to be seen and loved, and just like Augustine, that's all she wanted.
That's what I love about August, is like, it's not a dream, even though it sort of sounds like it. Like it's like it feels, the situation feels very close to me, like getting swept up like that.
That whole song started with the fact that I had written down in my phone, "Meet me behind the mall," years ago, wanting to write it into a song.